To your home for Greater West Bloomfield news, Civic Center TV and 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Kego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, 89.3 Lakes FM. It's the Megacast, an hour-long TV and radio streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Live from West Bloomfield, we're bringing you the news, updates, and information impacting communities around Michigan. Join our host, Tyler Kieft, as he talks with community members, business leaders, and professional experts about the stories that impact you. You're watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV.
When the temperatures are chilly, being together warms the soul. Keep the winter fun going. Help protect yourself and those around you by keeping your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy. And if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin, as we always do, with what's making headlines today on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. Our top story comes from Jennifer Chambers at the Detroit News, where despite a recent decision by Oakland County Circuit Court Judge Mary Ellen Brennan declaring that Oxford Community Schools has government immunity in the school shooting case dating back to November of 2021. The independent firm known as Guidepost that is investigating the mass shooting that killed 3 students will continue forward with its work, with the first report from the third-party investigators expected in the spring. Investigators say many critical interviews have already been conducted and many more are planned in the coming weeks and months before they release their first report, which is looking into the steps that led up to the mass shooting, the response on the day of and in the immediate aftermath, as well as the school district's immediate action in the aftermath to console the families, the communities, and of course to work to begin preventing similar incidents from being possible or being probable in the future. In addition, Guidepost has stated that Oxford Community Schools has been fully compliant in providing requested materials needed to ensure the thorough investigation is done as swiftly and as efficiently as possible. In the end, the goal is to take the lessons learned from the November 2021 shooting in order to determine if the school district has been operating under their best practices for security and public safety, and to make the necessary adjustments in order to ensure the safety of students, staff, and faculty at both Oxford High and other district schools and buildings in the future. And in addition, build the confidence of the public to keep their kids safe. And so that is good news in this case, that despite the liability necessarily from the government's standpoint, from the court's standpoint, being relieved from the Oxford Community School District, that they're going to continue to look into what went wrong on that day in November, on November 30th, 2021, in the days and weeks before that, and what the practices currently are in relation to what are the best practices to prevent these sort of incidents from happening at any of their schools in the future, and to make sure that the community, that the school district, that the staff and faculty that are working in this building each and every day have the best tools possible and the best practices possible to keep themselves and, of course, to keep the students safe every single day, so that learning can be the priority in these school district buildings. That being said, hopefully what also comes from this investigation is a clearer look into what mistakes may have been made by the Oxford Community School District. Certainly at this time, because of the number of lawsuits that were in place prior to this ruling late last week by Judge Mary Ellen Brennan, many were pointing fingers at the Oxford Community School District, at certain officials, certain teachers, and administration for not properly handling what they believe would have been what was a dangerous student before the shooting. In this case, the then 15-year-old shooter who had been in multiple meetings in the office with school officials, including meetings between school officials and his parents and himself, and ultimately being sent back to class. That's already known information that's been released to the public. Claiming that those mistakes were critical mistakes and the school district should be liable for that. Of course, now with the ruling that school districts like Oxford do in fact have government immunity, and in this case Oxford does have government immunity, those lawsuits, about a dozen of them, are out the window. There's an article from the same author, Jennifer Chambers, that we had on yesterday's program that's also on our local news page to look more into that decision by Judge Mary Ellen Brennan and some of the reasons behind it. That being said, because of that ruling, and perhaps maybe that could be appealed, perhaps maybe that's not the final decision in this case, and these lawsuits may still have some legs, but if not, this investigation is the last stand for the community. It's the last step for the community to understand what went on in the time before November 30th, 2021, that ultimately led to that then 15-year-old young boy to then go into that school with a gun that his parents had purchased, and ultimately kill 3 of his classmates and injure several other classmates, including a teacher in the school on that day, and ultimately traumatize so many in the Oxford community and communities surrounding that have been through similar incidents. And especially now that we have now experienced 2 mass shooting events right here in Michigan, one in our local area and one very close to our local area in East Lansing just a few weeks ago at Michigan State University. This becomes even more important. Those investigations afterward, having open investigations, having open participation by these organizations, whether it be the Oxford Community School District in this case, or whether it be Michigan State University as the MSU Police and Public Safety Department and other organizations look into what led up to and what ultimately could have been done better in that case at Michigan State a few weeks ago. These investigations need to have that open door policy from these organizations. And it's good it's also being done by a third-party organization too, because we've seen in the past, even the Attorney General's office, Attorney General Dana Nessel had several times offered the school district, let our department do an independent investigation so that your hands are not on this, that there's no concerns about conflict of interest, even in hiring a third-party firm. That's something that could still be in the back of people's minds, whether it is a legitimate concern or not, whether it should be a legitimate concern or not. The fact of the matter is that despite this ruling from Judge Mary Ellen Brennan late last week that's thrown out these lawsuits and has given government immunity to Oxford Community Schools and, of course, to the staff and the administration and faculty that were allegedly at fault according to those lawsuits, those previously active lawsuits, that they're still going to look into this. They're still going to do their due diligence and hopefully put better practices in place in the future so that any other acts of violence or threats to the Oxford Community Schools community is no longer going to be something that could lead to severe injury for their students, staff, faculty, and others, or worse off, more deaths as we saw on November 30th, 2021. Also making headlines today from Chandra Fleming at the Detroit Free Press. Despite recent trends of falling gas prices, the trends are showing a reverse as of late. With over the past week, the price of gas per gallon rose on average 17 cents in the state of Michigan to where it currently stands at $3.46 per gallon. That is 6 cents above the national average. The main culprit, as usual, is a rise in the demand for gas, with the Energy Information Administration, or EIA, saying that demand jumped by about 200,000 barrels per day from last week's metrics at about 8.91 barrels per day being the demand to this week, the most recent metrics, 9.11 million barrels per day. Taking into effect greater need for gas, with Michigan motorists filling up last week and the week before that due to impending and ongoing storms, collecting extra gas as well, and maybe in canisters for the generators, for their snow blowers, for other materials they need to be operating with gasoline, and you can see a clear need being on the rise. And with that, more demand, and with that demand going up and more people wanting to get gas and getting gas to deal with these storms and to make sure they're prepared, it's going to lower the supply, and it's simple economics from there. Higher demand, lower supply, higher prices. In Michigan, the most expensive average prices are currently in Lansing at $3.48 per gallon, Ann Arbor $3.47, and that same number in Flint, $3.47 per gallon. For the lowest prices in Michigan, you're going to have to do a little bit of traveling and go quite north to Marquette, $3.35 per gallon. Go west to Grand Rapids at $3.45 a gallon, or again, go north to Traverse City, $3.45 per gallon. Currently, Metro Detroit is right in the middle of those price ranges, with its average price per gallon currently sitting at $3.46 per gallon. Finally, making headlines today on our local news page on civiccentertv.com from you, Stella U, at Bridge, Michigan, with continued frustrations and concerns surrounding power utility reliability in our local area. Consumers and watchdogs alike are keeping a close eye on utilities such as DTE Energy and Consumers Energy and their relationships with our state lawmakers. This was even brought up in Lansing by State House Majority Floor Leader Representative Abraham Ayash, who stated reforms are absolutely in order due to a, quote, major conflict of interest, and closed quote, in which the vast majority of sitting legislators, about 70%, have received some political action committee or PAC funding from PACs involved with DTE and with Consumers Energy. These PACs gave over $2 million for reference in campaign funds to Governor Whitmer, and DTE gave over $1 million, in fact $1.2 million, to lawmakers' campaigns as well as to party caucuses between January of 2017 and the end of last year. So that, of course, creates a sticky situation, as many lawmakers are currently calling for investigations into the quality of service by these major utilities. It then begs the question, how hard will they actually push for change and accountability no matter what they find, and ultimately, after they find maybe some information that requires some pushback on these utilities, how much of a pushback will they make on organizations that have supported their campaigns and perhaps may continue to support their campaigns? Look, I'm not suggesting that there's any foul play here. Certainly, I'm not presenting any direct evidence of foul play against anybody in our state Congress at this time. I don't have that in front of me. I'd have to do more investigating on that to even find that evidence, let alone put that out there unless it's absolutely ironclad. So I'm not saying that there is this major conflict of interest or that all these lawmakers have DTE Energy and Consumers Energy in their pockets, but it's well presented in this article. Click through, read the supporting materials from you, Stella Yu. She's done great work at Bridge, Michigan to put this together. 70% of Michigan's lawmakers, 102 out of the 140, I believe, was the number. 102 out of 148 current sitting legislators have received funds from PACs that are involved with DTE Energy and Consumers Energy. It begs that question. It's a fair question, one that even lawmakers such as Representative Ayash are bringing to the table. And this is a critical issue in the state of Michigan. People need reliable power. People need affordable utilities. And when you have situations like we've had recently where there have been not just power outages that of course are due to the weather, you have ice that's formulating on our power lines and knocking them down, creating dangerous situations. These crews need to go out. They're working around the clock to try to resolve these issues, and then they end up being very prolonged, and maybe the communication's not so great between the utilities and their customers. Obviously, that's going to lead to a lot of frustration, and when that happens, people are going to call their Congress people. They're going to call their representatives. They're going to call their senators. They're going to call the Attorney General's office. They're going to call the Better Business Bureau, which is not a government association, but does play a factor in some of the perceived reliability of these companies and the trust factor for these companies, especially as there continues to be news and discussion about DTE Energy seeking an approval of a 13.9% hike in customer rates. That's a tall order. That's a tall ask for DTE, especially in times like this, especially with us being just a couple of years removed from in the severe weather season, having prolonged outages time and time again during the summer with floods and with rainstorms and with high winds. How often is this going to happen, and how severe is it going to be every single time? And then on top of that, how are customers going to be reimbursed for that? And B, how are customers, arguably more important, how are customers going to be informed of where they're at? You look at the DTE outage map, and you can do that on our website at civiccentertv.com/ice. There's a direct link to that. Again, civiccentertv.com/ice with their new map that shows maybe the number of outages or clusters of outages in certain areas. But you click through on some of those details, you're not really getting much of any details. You're not getting specific times. You're not getting any information about what's being done in that particular area to address these issues, or what may be some of the root causes of these outages. And people are already paying well and more than enough for their energy here in southeastern Michigan. There are plenty of people that would argue that they're paying too much for their energy to DTE and too much for their energy to consumers. And that's why they're asking for accountability. If it's been unreliable, if people are losing power even after storms, and then they're out for several days and they're not getting the answers they're looking for in a satisfactory manner, of course, they're going to escalate that to lawmakers. And that's why you've got eyes on this from lawmakers in Lansing. You've got eyes on this from the Attorney General's office. Dana Nessel has even said that her office perhaps may be looking into DTE Energy and Consumers Energy, particularly DTE, and their reliability and their communication with their customers. So this is a major issue. And when you have, presumably, these companies in the pockets of lawmakers, you're going to have a conflict of interest be at least brought up. Whether or not that is a fruitful conflict of interest and is actually causing these lawmakers to make decisions that are more in favor of the utilities than their constituents, that's not for me to say, at least not at this time. That I simply don't have that evidence in front of me. But it's a very valid question, and this is a really good article to read. I would highly suggest you go over to our website, civiccentertv.com, click on our local news page, and click on this article. Calvin, you can bring it up on our screen for those that are watching on our stream so they know which one to click on. Utilities gave big to Michigan lawmakers, now weighing reforms, records show. That is from Stella U at Bridge, Michigan. Click through to that article, and you'll be able to see that on our website, on our local news page. And you had it up there, Calvin. If you click through to it, it'll take you to the Bridge, Michigan article. You can read it. You can see all of her work that's gone into it and the details. There's been graphs that even include some of the representatives in our state legislature themselves that have received campaign funds from from these PACs that are represented by DTE and consumers, and how much they've received. And look, this is a part of a much bigger debate. This goes well beyond the Michigan State Legislature, the Michigan House, the Michigan Senate, DTE Energy, Consumers Energy, other utilities, other major companies in the state of Michigan. This goes well beyond that. This goes to a national conversation that has been ongoing for a number of years. And thank you, Calvin, for showing portions of the article from Bridge, Michigan. It's, again, great work that's been done by Stella U and the team at Bridge, Michigan. As you see, if you're watching on a stream, some of those funds raised by these PACs involved with DTE Energy and Consumers Energy between 2017 and 2022. I won't read off these names. I don't want to call anybody out specifically, but you see Democrats and Republicans alike, tens of thousands of dollars. Granted, this is also between 2017 and 2022, so it's a 5-year period. You can narrow that down. You can do the math yourself, and maybe it's a little less severe than the numbers you're seeing right away. But nonetheless, it's campaign funds that are going through political action committees that are affiliated with these companies to our lawmakers. That's always going to throw up some red flags. And again, as I was saying, I digress. A national conversation on campaign finance and whether or not there needs to be certain reforms that take money out of politics from corporate organizations, whether or not corporations should have their own voice, or if those voices should come from individuals within those corporations as individuals, rather than as a company themselves or as an industry themselves, when you have all these political action committees, these PACs, these super PACs that are funding these campaigns, albeit in many cases they are recorded and they are public record, and you can use your right to the Freedom of Information Act to get access to these campaign finance records and other records, excuse me, from your local offices, and do your own homework if you'd like to do that. That is your right. But this is a very valid question, and one that needs to be addressed at the statewide level, while also addressing these glaring issues that have continued over the years with DTE Energy and with Consumers Energy. Now, from their perspective, and we have reached out to DTE Energy. I reached out to them personally yesterday to come on the show, talk about what they do in these situations when you have these mass outage events, when you have these major weather events that affect the full community, so that we can have a back and forth and we can get their perspective on this. I don't like to ever kind of hound on one person or one group of people without giving them a chance to speak their piece and to speak their perspective. That's not what this is about. This is not an attack on DTE Energy and Consumers Energy. In fact, when it comes to campaign finance, they're playing by the rules. It's not don't hate the player, hate the game is the cliche, right? That's exactly where they're at. Now, they still need to be held accountable, and hopefully that is what's going to come out of this situation, but we've seen it in the past where it hasn't. We had mass power outages a couple of summers ago, as I already mentioned, and really nothing seemed to come from that. DTE Energy in particular was seeking rate hikes even all the way back then. They still are now for nearly 14% in hikes in their ratings, in their rates per month for their customers. Now they're claiming that is because they need to do necessary improvements across the grid and across our local power systems in order to prevent some of these incidences, which also begs the question, to what extent has that been done over the years already as rates have hiked over time? Now, sometimes that's because of inflation, sometimes that's because of the cost of goods, sometimes many factors altogether. That's not so much the concern. The concern really is the reliability of our power systems and why people keep losing power for sometimes several days on end. That is losing the food in the refrigerator. If they work from home, that is losing their ability to work from home. If they don't have reliable transportation on top of that, that's an added expense to get to the office or to get to the local library or somewhere else they can access the internet and perhaps do that work or go to the office in order to do that work. Then they're losing those wages, or they have to take time off that they can't take off at other times. And when they're getting vouchers for $35 credited to their account when they have their power out for 4 days, that's a huge frustration when you're asking for a 14% hike in their rates every month, 13.9% for all intents and purposes. I'm saying 14, but still, that's a big thing to ask of these customers when they're having consistent power outages in places all throughout our local area. While your specific home area or your office area may not have those outages time and time again, this may have been the first set of incidences that have really caused prolonged power outages for you in a long time in these areas. And that's okay too, that happens. But for these other individuals, for these communities that consistently have these outages, these are huge concerns. These are huge concerns because they're paying these bills every month, and then they're losing money on their food and on their wages and having to get other transportation in some cases in order to get to work or being able to work at all, and $35 doesn't cut it. What their insurance company may cover because of the outages in terms of damages to goods that they have purchased previously may not really do much to move the needle forward in these cases. And so accountability being called for by our legislators, and they need to be held accountable as well. They are elected by the people, they are held accountable by the people, and that's why I really encourage you to read this article from Bridge, Michigan, click through to it, and give them some love at Bridge, Michigan for the great work that they're doing. You, Stella, you did an excellent job on this article. It's on our website, linked on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page, along with all of our headlines today and throughout the week. And at the top of the page, links to COVID-19 and other public health news and information from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and of course the Oakland County Health Division in our local area. We have a great show ahead on today's edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, it's spring break season, and while you can go to the sunny, warm beaches, what can you do right here in your local area to bring some sunshine in your community? Stay with us. We'll tell you about that and more coming up next on the Megacast.
Hello, nose. My nose knows is when somebody uses the bathroom. Mom, all we need is flush. Ooh, I smell cookies.
I smell an A+.
How could my nose be running when it stays on my face?
Our noses know if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
There are many different kinds of noses. Our noses can sniff out all kinds of things. Good things and bad things. Your nose knows if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program and keep up to date with all of our segments on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. In addition, you'll find links to a number of different community television, radio, and streaming outlets in your local area and learn more about all their original programming about your hometown each and every day in the 23 hours of the day that they're not with us live on the Megacast weekdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. for our live shows. Well, it is that time of the year when individuals and families are getting away from the cold weather here in Michigan and going off to a sunny beach in Florida or out west or going and traveling the world for spring break. But why not bring some sunshine to your communities right here in southeastern Michigan? Joining us to talk about some of those opportunities is Brandon Shamoun, the Assistant Director of Student Involvement at Wayne State University. Brandon, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Glad to have you on to talk about this. We've had people from Wayne State on in the past to talk about their alternative spring break program. But for those that may not be familiar, what is alternative spring break?
So a lot of schools have this alternative spring break type of program where their students volunteer their time, whether it's in different cities across the country. Sometimes they go internationally. Here in Detroit at Wayne State, we stay in our backyard and give back to our community here.
And so what does that look like in the Wayne State community? As you said, many of these universities, these colleges, even individual communities have alternative spring break programs, but it's really different in every area. So for Wayne State students, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we take about a group of 40 to 60 students, and we, starting this Sunday, March 12th until Friday, March 17th, we basically camp style, like a lock-in style, if you think of that kind of notion, where they stay all together, get their sleeping bags, inflatable mattresses. We stay at a church down in downtown Detroit, and from there, from Monday to Friday, are broken up into teams where they volunteer to different nonprofits and community organizations in the city, as well as Highland Park and Hamtramck, where they're giving their time and also learning about what these nonprofits can do and how they support our communities here in our backyard.
And so how do you get in contact with these organizations in need to ultimately provide this help to them from student volunteers during this program? How do they come to you, or do you go to them?
It's a little bit of both, but I really put the support and all the influences from the students itself. It's all student-ran programs. So the students, we start planning back in November or so, and we pick our team leads, and the team leads then go out into the communities and find their sites. We also get a series of emails from sites that heard about this program since we've been around for about 20 years or so, knowing that we've been doing this every spring break. And then additionally, we've partnered in recent years with Share Detroit, a local nonprofit that helps us get engaged and connected with volunteer organizations as well within the community.
And you mentioned some of these organizations that you'll be partnering with Wayne State University and their alternative spring break program. But what are some of the different needs that are going to be covered by your volunteers, or different activities they may participate in to help these organizations?
Yeah, so we'll be volunteering at different community gardens and farms across the city. Also doing some maintenance on parks. We're going to be going to Mariners Inn, which aids with different transient and homeless populations within the community as well amongst men. We've been doing some gardening prep for beds within that. So it's whatever is hands-on. We try to stay away from the cleaning of basements and old buildings with like a lot of files and cabinets and we have to sort through, but more of the intentional work that we're doing that our communities can see that will actually make a difference for these organizations.
So how do people then get involved, Brandon? Is it as simple as showing up, or do they have to take some steps beforehand to participate in alternative spring break with your university?
Yeah, so typically we have 100 students that apply for the program, and unfortunately we don't have 100 spots because we are limited in our sleeping space and just our transportation needs. So applications open every January. Any Wayne State student that takes at least 1 credit hour, whether you're a first year new student to Wayne State, a transfer student, a senior about to graduate, even medical students and law students that might be interested in the program are able to join. So they apply in January. From there, we look at applications amongst the team leads and our student coordinators in February and offer our decisions. And sometimes we have interviews because it is a highly selective process. And we want to make sure folks that are not yet engaged or really into the program or into the mission of the program have an opportunity to be a part of it. So we tend not to take returner students. We tend to take new students. We tend to take students who really want to make a difference and those students who are not yet maybe connected as much within the community or at Wayne State to get them open and aware of what's happening around our community.
You can learn more about volunteer opportunities at Wayne State University by visiting their website at wayne.edu. Wayne.edu for more information. Joining us on the program today is Brandon Shamoun, the Assistant Director of Student Involvement at Wayne State University. And Brandon, you mentioned this is a very selective program. Only about 100 students ultimately are going to be involved in alternative spring break this particular spring break season. But what other opportunities are there throughout the school year for people to participate in volunteer opportunities through Wayne State if they want to get involved, or maybe even if they just can't get involved in this particular project?
Yeah, so we at our website have a volunteer hub. It's basically a one-stop shop where whenever we get volunteer requests or as a university you need to reach out to students, we put all of our resources in our call outs on the Volunteer Hub website through the Dean of Students office. Additionally, I mentioned a little bit that we partner with Share Detroit, and we always connect students with the Share Detroit website because they have a robust list of organizations and events, and even outside of organization events, on how you can donate maybe materials or time as well. Or monetary values to different nonprofit organizations that are in need across the community and even outside of Wayne County here.
More information, again, can be found on wayne.edu. Wayne.edu for students. As Brandon said, all you need is 1 credit hour as a student at Wayne State this semester in order to participate in alternative spring break, as well as similar programs. My apologies. In the future. Again, wayne.edu is the website for more information. And Brandon, in terms of the experience, what do students typically get out of this experience? Because they're able to really get involved in the community in a number of different facets and see different organizations that are making a really big impact and themselves make an impact too.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is you get to meet, about 30 to 50 other students. And so if you don't get anything out of the program, I tell my students that you have the opportunity to meet other Wayne State students and connect with them even outside of the program. I'm an alum of the program myself from 2013, and I'm still in contact with a lot of students from that program. Additionally, we understand that this is a snapshot of the volunteerism that happens in the community. We're only doing it for 5 days within the city. And the goal is to let students know and understand that it is a snapshot, and it's an opportunity for you to learn more and do more outside of spring break. And from there, we have different student organizations that kind of branch off this alternative spring break program and really go back and continue that volunteerism throughout those nonprofits that they discover during this program. So in all, we really hope to embrace the friendship and networking that students really connect with during the program, as well as the awareness and understanding of what the nonprofit needs are.
Having participated in this yourself, as you said, Brandon, and now helping to organize this as in your role with Wayne State University, communicating with these organizations, just how much of an impact does it have on them to have this sort of volunteerism from the Wayne State University community right there in Detroit to help people in Detroit?
It's a huge impact. And so we have a lot of alum in the community, a lot of alum that are in the nonprofit fields. And so when they hear that there's 30 to 40 students that want to come volunteer at their service site during spring break, they're usually ecstatic for the time. Sometimes it's hard for them to find a project that has that many students because they're not usually typically getting that many volunteers at once. So we really try to be innovative and have a discussion with them and see, hey, what can we do during this week with you all? And so it's really heartwarming to see that these students are going into the field and doing that. And then again, explaining to those nonprofit leaders what Wayne State's all about. And if they haven't been onto our campus in many years, if they were an alum, they kind of talk about their student story and student experience. So it's full circle from there. And we really enjoy that with our nonprofit leaders there.
Again, more information can be found on wayne.edu. Wayne.edu, just search volunteer, and you can navigate to their volunteer hub for more information on volunteer opportunities all across the year through Wayne State University, including their alternative spring break program, which, Brandon, you said usually for those that weren't able to apply for this year or aren't able to participate, if they want to in the future, that usually those applications begin in about January, correct?
Correct. Yep. January for every winter semester.
Okay, and then you go through that process, and about 100 students do get in, but there's plenty of other opportunities all throughout the year. You mentioned the partnership with Share Detroit. We also have a partnership with them. We talk to many nonprofits here in our local area throughout each and every month on the Megacast. But working with them, having this one organization, too, that's able to help communicate between your university and these organizations that are in need or services that are in need in Detroit, how has that helped to make alternative spring break through Wayne State University that much more effective in the community?
It has been really rewarding for us to partner with Share Detroit. They have really opened the doors for us to learn more about the nonprofits. Our students, like I said, this is a student-ran program, and I'm just here as an advisor. So sometimes students don't know what they don't know besides Googling and just doing some cold calling on their own. And Share Detroit has really offered to be that catalyst for the nonprofit community within getting us connected with them at Wayne State for this program. So it's really been a great partnership. This is about, I believe, our third year working with them to really get that going and to make sure that we are really connecting with those meaningful partners and making sure our students are doing meaningful activities at those service sites.
More information, again, can be found on wayne.edu. Wayne.edu is the website for volunteer opportunities at Wayne State University, including alternative spring break that is happening next week in Detroit with impacts across the community for a number of nonprofits. You'll want to learn more. Again, wayne.edu for more information. Brandon, before we let you go, a few more minutes, anything else we haven't discussed about alternative spring break or other volunteer opportunities through Wayne State for students or just for others in the community as well that would like to participate that you'd like to discuss?
I just like to say, I tell our students this all the time, that although that Detroit is really big and Wayne State's a really big place to be in, just getting your foot in the door and discovering and trying something different, even though it's not maybe what you're used to as a hobby or what your major is in. I tell my students to try something different, try something new, make a difference in that, and it'll leave a lasting impact. And you never know, it might be something that you want to do for the rest of your life and just giving back and within that. So I always tell students to discover themselves and try more. And this is a really good program to be a part of that, to do more and do that.
It's something that you can get started with right now online at wayne.edu. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate having you on as alternative spring break at Wayne State University begins next week. We'll take a break. On the other side, we'll talk to another charity and nonprofit throughout the Metro Detroit area supported on the Share Detroit platform. There's over 300 of them. We'll be joined by one of them next. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick.
The virus will die.
It will be easy to not catch it.
Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer.
Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine.
To keep safe and strong.
Be happy, having fun everywhere.
Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened. It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important.
And now the same is true in the face of flu.
Influenza has the power to infect millions.
But it's easy to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
The flu vaccine is safe and effective. And with COVID-19 still around,
it's essential. Together we can face flu season head on.
Visit michigan.gov/flu.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program and keep up to date with each of our episodes and each segment as well on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. In addition, we have links to every single one of our partnering TV, radio, and streaming outlets right here in Oakland County, including in your hometown. Check those out, civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now is one of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Shared Detroit platform. Katie Montes is the Executive Director of Mary's Mantle and joins us now on the program. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Tyler. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on to tell us about Mary's Mantle. Before we get into some of the specifics, just give us a little bit of the history, the background of your organization, and some of the resources you provide.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mary's Mantle started in 2010. We are a residential program for homeless pregnant women throughout the Tri-County area. So we are located in Oakland County, but we definitely help moms and children all throughout the area.
And this is something that maybe doesn't get as much attention as it should, because we think about the homeless population, we simply think about people that aren't regularly living in a house or in an apartment or have a specific place that they're calling home. Maybe they're roaming around, they're going to shelters, they're living out of their cars. And typically when people think of a homeless person, they don't think of an expecting mother, but much like you and I and so many of us, they're living people that are homeless are living their everyday regular lives too, and that includes parenting, that includes motherhood. So just how critical are these resources that you're providing, and what really are you providing to these expecting women and people that can get pregnant that are out on the streets?
Absolutely. I think that's a great point, Tyler. We often think of homeless people as, just being on the streets of Detroit, but homelessness can look a lot of different ways. So for a lot of the women that we see, homelessness just looks like a young woman who might be couch surfing, might be couch to couch, family to family, just not have a consistent, safe place to live, which is tough enough just if you're on your own. But when you're pregnant or a new mom, that those challenges just become more compounded. So that's really why Mary's Mantle was founded. We are a small organization, but our goal is to provide safe housing for our women. Our home is in Southfield. We can provide housing and support for up to 4 moms at a time. So it's certainly not large, but our hope is that our moms stay at least 6 up to 12 months, even longer, if they want to, and have that safety and security that we can offer.
And that safety, that security, it's so critical because you're not just thinking about who is pregnant in this situation. You're also thinking about ultimately the baby that they're going to be having. And how this experience of being homeless may impact that child once they are born, and certainly even after they're born. And so in terms of the resources you're providing to these expecting parents, beyond, of course, what you just discussed, how much of a focus also goes on really protecting that expected child in this experience too, because they are going to be also impacted by the homelessness.
Absolutely. So we have a full-time social worker that works on site with our ladies that provides all sorts of case management support. So whatever's going on in that young woman's life before they come to us, whether it's lack of education or lack of employment, transportation barriers, help connection with medical resources. A lot of the ladies that we help have not seen any OBGYN or received any prenatal care. So those are all things that Mary's Mantle is really going to start working with the mom right when she moves in. First, we want to make sure she feels safe and secure with us, but as soon as she's ready, we have staff who are just ready and willing to help with whatever it is the mom is ready to have help with.
And Katie, as we're talking about this, and we're talking about the resources you're providing these expecting parents, when they're also ultimately, after they've had their child, after they've given birth, what sort of resources are provided then? Because they're still going to be, they're of course still parents. They're not pregnant parents any longer, but they're now parents to a living, breathing child, and are still homeless. So what sort of resources are provided after the birth?
Yeah, absolutely. So our hope is that a mom stays with us for a while after the birth, and we're going to help her find stable housing. But then beyond that, Mary's Mantle provides aftercare support. So even after a mom moves out of the residential program, we continue to walk with her in her journey. So we have another social worker that stays on to support women up until when the child turns 5, and honestly, really beyond that too. We have our oldest Mary's Mantle baby is now 11, and so that continuation of support really goes far beyond. We can help with school enrollment, getting services in place, things like early on, things like that for the mom who might still be struggling with, having a young toddler or even a school-age child. So we really want our moms to know we're here to walk with them the long haul.
You can get involved and you can find information on how you can also get help by visiting Mary's Mantle's website at marysmantle.net, or go to sharedetroit.org and search for Mary's Mantle under their Find a Nonprofit section. You can also give them a call, 248-376-5338, 248-376-5338 for more information. Again, all of this is also cataloged on Share Detroit's website at sharedetroit.org. We're joined by Katie Montes, the Executive Director of Mary's Mantle, on today's edition of the Megacast. Katie, it can be tough for homeless individuals to get access to critical resources, whether it be, of course, shelter, but also work or food or other critical resources that they need day to day for themselves and for their families. And that can include getting in contact with organizations, finding a telephone to make a phone call, finding internet to research an organization or a shelter like yours that they could go to for some of these resources. So how typically are you getting in contact with these expecting parents?
Yeah, so a lot of times we get referrals from various hospitals. Social workers especially will reach out to us. They might see a young woman in the emergency room that is pregnant and needs support. A lot of the crisis pregnancy centers in the area, so women who are seeking help, who are newly pregnant and not sure what to do, they have our information. So it's really a word of mouth situation. We thankfully see a lot of sisters come through our program, or friends. So somebody has been through our program and they say, hey, this program really helped me a few years ago. You should consider it too. So it's really from all different avenues.
More information, again, can be found on marysmantle.net. That's marysmantle.net for more information, or you can call them 248-376-5338, 248-376-5338 for more information. And this also requires, like any nonprofit's work, a lot of support from the greater community and people that want to help these expecting parents and, of course, these children that are afflicted with homelessness. So how can people get involved to help your organization provide these resources and provide this comfort and stability to expecting parents?
Absolutely. So we are completely privately funded. Our annual budget's about $500,000 a year, and we do all that fundraising ourselves. So one great way to get involved is to support us financially or to attend one of our 3 fundraising events. And our first one is just 2 weeks away, which is at Top Golf in Auburn Hills. And so that is Sunday, March 18th. All the information is on our website. But it's just a great night out, a little bit of golf, some food and drinks and games. But it's a great way to not only support our ministry, but to learn about our ministry. So if somebody coming for the first time who might not know who we are or what we do, it's a great night to bring a friend and just really learn about the work that we do.
And to provide some perspective, what do you, and really even more importantly, what do these expecting parents, what do they wish that people knew more about being an expecting parent facing homelessness?
I think they just want to know that they're not alone. And so, our moms, some feel like, they're newly pregnant, maybe they're not even sure where to go. They might not have had the easiest childhood. And so they're scared. They want to know that there's support out there. And so that's the first thing we do. We let them know that they're not alone. And I think that goes a long way to kind of bridge that gap to help them down the road.
More information, again, can be found on marysmantle.net. marysmantle.net is the place to go for more information. And in terms of how much this has an impact on these expecting parents, certainly on the children, give us some details on that, because you mentioned that the oldest Mary's Mantle baby at this point is 11 years old. You've been running this organization. This organization's been running since 2010. So just how much of a significant impact can these services have on these expecting parents and then certainly on their kids?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of walking with moms far beyond the birth of their babies, that we get to see kids who go to kindergarten and go off to school and things like that. So, it's not so much what we do for the moms, but it's what they do for themselves. Once they have a safe place and once they kind of have some security in that, we just we're there to walk the journey with them, but they're the ones doing the work, which is just such a blessing to be part of and to get to watch them really blossom and accomplish the goals that they want to.
Again, you can get in contact with Mary's Mantle and find more information on the organization, ways you can get involved, ways that you can help as well by visiting sharedetroit.org. You go to their Find a Nonprofit section and you search for Mary's Mantle and you'll find all the information you need. That's contact information, that's their website, volunteer opportunities, some items that they may need in order to help these expecting parents and to fulfill their mission. And of course, you can call them to get in contact and donate as well. Or you can go directly to their website, marysmantle.net. Marysmantle.net is their direct website, and call them 248-376-5338. 248-376-5338 for more information. We're joined by Katie Montes, who is the Executive Director of Mary's Mantle, on today's edition of the Megacast. Katie, and we mentioned some of the resources provided by Share Detroit, including lists of maybe items or other necessities for organizations that are supported on that platform. For your organization, for these expecting parents, for eventually these kids that are birthed from these expecting parents who are homeless, what are some of those critical resources that are needed that the community can support by donating to your organization, either those items proper or the funds that are needed to obtain them?
Yeah, absolutely. Funding is usually our biggest need. So just helping support our programs. Again, we're completely privately funded. We do have an Amazon wish list on Share Detroit's website that we love to get support through. So we provide everything that our moms need, from diapers to cleaning supplies, laundry detergent. All their basic necessities are provided by Mary's Mantle at no charge. And so, as you can imagine, we need a lot of things sometimes. So physically, there's lots of donations that we can accept through Amazon, or also there's a list found on our website as well of our current donation needs that we're accepting.
And just a little bit over a week away, you'll be having one of your fundraisers as well. A really fun way for people to get involved with your organization, have some fun out on the links, and support expecting parents in our local area. Tell us about your upcoming golf outing.
Yeah, so it's a great way to get out golfing before the official season starts for golfers. So Top Golf, in case people are not familiar, is an indoor facility in Auburn Hills. So no matter the weather, we can golf. We usually have just over 100 participants at the event. You don't have to be a golfer to come. I think it's actually more fun if you're not a golfer, but it's just a really great, fun way out to support the ministry, but also to just learn about what we do and just have fun.
marysmantle.net is the place to go to learn more information. You can also register on the website. And again, that event is at Top Golf at Great Lakes Crossing in Auburn Hills on Sunday, March 19th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, March 19th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And you can register online. Tickets for the meal only, $25 for an individual person for the meal, and the golfing is $75. A team of 6 for $450, and proceeds are going to support expecting parents here in our local area that are afflicted with homelessness through Mary's Mantle, who's doing great work right here in Oakland County for parents, not just in Oakland County, but across the local area as well. We're joined on the program by Katie Montes, the Executive Director of Mary's Mantle. And Katie, a couple more minutes with you before we'll need to wrap up for the day. Anything else that we haven't discussed that would be important for our audience to keep in consideration about the work that you're doing or about your organization?
Sure, absolutely. I just encourage people, sometimes when you're hearing about a new organization, you might think in the back of your head, hey, that sounds like a place I could donate some time or talent or financial support. And that's how I came to Mary's Mantle. I heard about the organization and I thought that really sounds like a place that I'd love to get involved in. And that was 8 years ago, and here I am. So I just encourage listeners and viewers to, if this is something that you feel like you might be able to help in some way, I encourage you to reach out. We are very responsive to emails and phone calls, and I'd be happy to talk with anybody more.
Over a decade of service to homeless expecting parents right here in our local area, and continuing to do great work as time goes on. Katie, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tyler.
Glad to have you on with us today. A couple of places that you can go for more information on Mary's Mantle, ways you can get involved, and of course, ways that you can help them through donating items or donating funds to their nonprofit. You can go to sharedetroit.org. There's over 300 charities and nonprofits and counting on the website. I'm just plugging it in right now on our website. It's currently standing at 333 charities and nonprofits in the Metro Detroit area. That includes right here in Oakland County a number of different causes that you can help right here in our local area. Nonprofits, charities that are helping your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, and complete strangers in need in a variety of different areas. ShareDetroit.org. They join us a couple times a week to learn more about these great organizations doing amazing work right here in Oakland County. You can also, for more information on Mary's Mantle specifically, go directly to their website at marysmantle.net, marysmantle.net, where you can also register to participate in their golf outing, not this week Sunday, but a week from Sunday at Top Golf in Auburn Hills. A great evening of fun that supports a great cause right here in Oakland County. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. You can always join us Monday through Friday, live from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., as well as for replays and live to tape across the Oakland County area on a number of our partnering stations. Learn more information on civiccentertv.com/megacast. We have links to every single one of our partnering stations, whether they're in Lake Orion, in Waterford, in Bloomfield Hills, in Birmingham, and all throughout the Oakland County area. And you'll find links to ways that you can watch us on demand. Our full episodes, if you want to take the entire hour-long marathon with us on your time, anytime, or individual interviews such as our interviews with Shared Detroit Charities or other newsmakers across our local area. All of that is on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Keep up to date with the latest local news and public health information on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. Big thank you to each of our guests for joining us, as well as our crew, Jared Clark at the studio of My Michigan TV, and our director at Master Control at Civic Center TV, Calvin Brown, on today's program. That's our show. Until we see you next time, take care of each other, and we'll see you very soon.